Hi everyone, I'm Mary Lynn Rangel-Perez. I'm a full-time field education trainer with the Wella company. And today I want to thank Modern for letting us invade their Instagram account to be able to teach you guys a Illuminage technique. And today we're going to have Nichelle who is going to teach you guys that technique. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi Nichelle.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. My name is Nichelle. I am a field education trainer here in Vancouver, BC. I want to, first off by thanking Modern for letting us come on here, and then also thanking ML for being my co-host. It's always so nice to have a co-host when we're doing a hands-on technique because it's hard to manage by yourself. I don't know if anybody else has tried. So today, as ML said, we are doing the Illuminage technique. So for everybody that tuned in a couple of weeks ago and watched Chelsea's live on Illuminicolor, we're kind of tying in the knowledge that we learned from Illuminicolor into a hands-on technique. So Illuminage is a hands-on painting balayage technique that really enhances the perimeter of the hair, creating lots of brightness and natural highs and lows throughout the hair. So I'm really excited to show you guys today. Awesome. All right. Did you have the head sheets of the sectioning, ML?
I do.
Perfect.
All right.
Yep. Awesome. So for time's sake, I kind of started the technique already, but this was my initial sectioning. So we have a large diamond section on the top of the head, and then we have with leaving kind of the perimeter out, and then we have 4 sections divided off that. So just behind the ear, down the center back, and down the center front. Okay. And could you bring up this head sheets of the back?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So let's show you guys what I have here. So in the back, as on the head sheets there, we have our sectioning here. So down the center, I worked in a diagonal back section as I was going up, and each kind of 1-inch subsection that I took, I would do a zigzag, leave the bottom of the zigzag out, and paint the top of the section. Okay. So in this way, like you could choose your own adventure, as I like to call it. You could choose to paint both of the sections using, alumina in between, or say using magma in between to create a more multi-dimensional look. In this case, I decided to use her natural color as my low. So I have half of my subsection left out, and then I just painted the top of the zigzag section. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start on the right side here. I've already done my left side. So if ML, if you could please bring up the perfect. Yes. Awesome. So this is going to be what the sides look like. So we're taking diagonal forward sections, and we're going to be painting, really focusing on the hairline and the perimeter there. Okay. So I'm going to be using my Free Lights paddle. I did kind of wipe it clean just for you guys today. I'm going to be using my Free Lights brush, and I'm going to be using my Blonde D'Or Free Lights powder. I'm sure ML has it for you guys.
Yes. So this is what the Free Lights powder looks like for anyone who may not know. It's going to be a white bottle, and your developer will also be the same logo as this, a white bottle with the gray writing.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, I forgot, for everybody who has questions, in the bottom here, there's a little question mark. If you guys can please put your comments in there, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm going to start with the diagonal forward section. So let me just make sure you guys can see. I did have to move my light around right before this live started.
Can see pretty good, Nichelle.
Okay, perfect. So I've got, you know, a pretty good section there, maybe just a little bit less than an inch, moving diagonal forward. I've combed through my section. So kind of my biggest tips when doing a freehand paint or balayage, I'll kind of start with how I kind of start my paint. So I've combed through my section. I've got nice, good tension on my section. I have all my tools nearby. I'm going to take my Free Lights powder and I'm going to put it a little bit on my paddle first, right? And really what I'm doing there is I'm just kind of mixing my Free Lights together a little better, just so I can get that nice creamy consistency onto my brush. Okay. So now I've got a nice bead on the side of my brush. I like to keep my brush quite clean because it makes it for a nice clean balayage. I'm holding nice, good tension on my section, and I'm actually pulling my section away from the face. The reason why I'm wanting to do this is because I'm really wanting to focus on a lot of hairline detail here. So by pulling the section back away from the face, I'm really able to get into that hairline a little bit better. So I've got my product on my one side of my brush, and I'm going to start my paint. Now you'll notice I don't start right at the top of my section. I kind of start midway down. And the reason I do that is because it allows me to move up my section and really feather that in closer to the root. Okay, so I like to think of my whole section that I'm holding in my hand kind of as three parts. So one being the mids, two being feathering at the root, and then three will be saturating the ends. And that's kind of how I like to do it. Are you the same, ML, or?
Yeah, I am actually. And I was just going to say that the angled brush is definitely the best for this to get better precision out of the balayage and the blending.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah. So one thing I always like to do when I'm doing a balayage too is I kind of layer my product. So I may start with a little bit and slowly layer more and more on, because we really want to have good, nice, even saturation on my section. I don't really want to see that hair through that product. I want to think more of like icing a cupcake or a cake, right? You don't want to skimp out on the icing. So
definitely makes it way nicer finish.
Yeah. So if I can see hairs kind of through my section or spots, that's going to translate into my lift. And when I finish my processing, I'm going to have, you know, a not even balayage. So here I have some product on my paddle and I'm just kind of really saturating through those ends. And you'll notice I kind of painted right into my hairline here. So I'm more thinking of this section three-dimensionally versus just painting the top of it, because I really want that hairline to have lots of brightness there.
So Nichelle, which developer did you use with this one?
Great question. So I used my 20 volume developer today. So Free Lights comes with 3 dedicated developers, our 20, 30, and 40. Today I used 20. Reason being is she's actually blonde underneath here, and I toned her down with a 7-stroke 3-1 in Illumina. So I don't need a ton of lift to get her where I want her to go.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how do you like to mix your Free Lights?
I am more of a 1 to 1.5 ratio mixture. I don't like it too thick, but I don't like it too watery.
Yeah, I like 1 to 1.5 as
Nichelle?
well. I'm mixed 1 to 1.5 as well.
Excellent.
I find that's like my Goldilocks mixing ratio.
And then there's also the option for 1 to 3 mixing ratio for the Free Lights for people who like a different consistency than Michelle and I.
Yeah. So again, I moved my section up. I have about an inch or so section here. I'm pulling away from the face. Nice even tension on my section. If you didn't see, I combed through my section beforehand. And now I'm just slowly feathering up to that hairline to get that hairline detail in there. Now, I know a lot of people get a little worried about going in close to the root. With this angled brush, it makes it very easy to do that very small detail work because it's quite a small brush and the bristles are not too soft, so you can get right into that hairline detail, which is really nice.
And that paddle is also great for controlling product too and making it easier when you're doing your balayage, correct, Nichelle?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I first started with the company, I actually wasn't a paddle person.
It's so great to work with and makes it easier.
Yeah, it does. And it keeps your hands clean. And I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a neat freak. So normally I would have like, you know, the messiest towel at the end because I'm constantly wiping my hands. The paddle was kind of a game changer for me when I learned how to use it.
I agree. I was the same as you. Towels were my way to go until I started using the paddle. So for all of you that haven't tried a paddle before, I highly recommend it. It definitely changes the game on balayage technique.
Yeah. And what I like about this paddle, and I'll show you guys in a second here, I'm just getting my good icing layer of product on here. And I'll just lay it down away from the face. So what I like about this paddle is it's actually quite small at the center of the handle here. So it really does fit here, and I'm still able to hold my section and my paddle at the same time. So I'm not constantly picking up and putting down tools.
So Nichelle, we have a question.
Yeah.
Why are there zigzags in the back but not in the front?
That is a great question. So in the back, we're trying to create a diffusion of color, which is going to have, you know, natural highs and lows that are very subtle. So we're using those zigzags to kind of create those that depth and that highlight, low light. Oh, I love you guys too. Thank you. And so, but when we're working on the front, we're really trying to get that maximum perimeter brightness. So we're not zigzagging, we're really working the maximum amount of product in the front of the hair so we can get that perimeter brightness. I hope that answered the question.
It seems to be.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm on kind of this last section that's going to be in front of the face here. Now this is quite a large section. You can choose to separate this and do it in two. I'm going to do it in one. And really this comes back to thinking of your section not in two-dimensional. Think of it as a 3D section. So I'm going to be, you know, painting the top here to get some light brightness, but I'm also going to be painting the front around the hairline to really make sure I get brightness there as well. Do you ever do that with your balayages, Emma?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. All right. So I sectioned her last night and she's got these wonderful little curls in her hair from my sectioning. So it makes it a little more difficult.
I'm sure it does. It would be great for finishing, for movement.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much for the technique itself.
Yeah. So I got nice, good tension. I am pulling slightly away from the face here. And I'm starting in the center of my section again. So kind of on the mids, and I'm gonna layer that product on. And again, I'm thinking of my section in three-dimensional. So since I'm pulling away from the face, I'm able to kind of work here as well in the front of my section, right around that hairline.
So Nichelle, it's important for them to know not to saturate towards the top, but more towards the bottom, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so we're still getting saturation throughout the section. I don't want you to think like, oh, less product at the top and more product at the bottom. It's not necessarily that. We're saturating through the ends versus on the kind of mids and top of the section, we're just surface painting, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think that clarifies a little better. Is there any questions for anyone? Please feel free to put them in the comment box if there is.
Yeah, we love questions.
We love questions.
So why don't we talk about the new shades, Emma?
Yes, we can. So, for anyone that may or may not know, Illumina is one of our permanent shades that we carry in the Wella portfolio. So, I'm just going to show you guys, this is what it looks like. This is the Illumina box for anybody that may not know Illumina. It is, like I said, one of our permanent hair color lines. It is beautiful line for anyone who hasn't used it. I highly recommend you try them. So we have 4 new shades, and I'm going to show you guys the swatches here. So first we have a 10 stroke 8-1, which is the lightest blonde pearl ash, which will be right here at the very top. And then we have a very light blonde red violet cendre, which is a 9 stroke 5-9. So it has a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see it very well with the tone here, has a little bit of that pinky blushy undertone, which is really beautiful for blondes who want that little bit of a hue. And then we're going to have a very light blonde ash cendre, which is a 9 stroke 1-9, which is right here as well.
Ooh, yeah, I love the 9 stroke 1-9.
Very nice tone. Very, very nice tone, because the cendre just kind of softens it, so it doesn't make the ash too strong. And then you have your light blonde cendre gold, so somebody who wants not too cool, not too warm, that kind of perfect soft tone in between here. So these are the 4 new shades with Illumina. And I highly recommend that if you do use Illumina and you haven't tried these out, to try them out. And Nichelle, you're going to be using Illumina today, right?
Yes, so my finished mannequin has all Illumina on her.
Excellent.
So I was excited. It was my first time getting to play with the new shades. So I'm really excited to show you my finished mannequin. So I'm just going to stop here and let you guys kind of see the front there. So you can see in the front, because I was pulling my section back away from the face, I really am able to get that nice hairline detail in there. Oh, sorry. And really get that brightness around the face, because we all know our clients love it when they pull their hair back and they see that brightness around their face. Hello.
Nichelle, we have another question in the chat box.
Perfect.
How light can we get with this technique?
So how light we get is always going to depend on a variety of things. If I'm going to be completely honest, in any kind of balayage technique, you're going to be getting more of a shift of color versus maximum brightness. If somebody comes in as wanting something very natural and subtle, you know, within 3 to 4 levels of their natural hair, then I would recommend a technique like this. If they're looking for that high contrast maximum lift, then I would recommend a technique like Brazilian Illuminage, which is a foliage technique.
Great. I hope that answered the question.
Do you agree with that, ML, that you're only going to get?
I do, 100%.
Okay. So now I'm working on the back here, and I'm going to do my best to demonstrate this for you guys. I might just move slightly away. Perfect. All right. So I'm in my, back section here. I have about a 1-inch subsection that I've taken, and I'm working still in a diagonal back. So I'm still working diagonally back from the head, like you can see in the diagram there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a zigzag, and quite a large zigzag. Okay. So now I can choose a couple of different things here. I can paint using different formulas. So I can say use Illumina here, and then my free lights, or Illumina on this top section, and then my free lights on the bottom, or I could use something like Magma to create a more multi-tonal look. For this sake, I'm going to be just painting the bottom of my section here. So I've got my large zigzag. I'm going to actually backcomb this section. So I'm just doing kind of one nice push, locking my backcombing, and then I'm going to paint the bottom of this zigzag.
We have another question, Nichelle.
Yeah.
Could you use this with a section and pattern with foil?
Could you repeat that, please?
Could you use this with of section and pattern with foil? I'm assuming that the question is, can you use this pattern and sectioning with foils?
I mean, you could, but then in a foil environment, you're going to get saturation all the way through your section. So you're not going to get those very subtle highs and lows as you would in a balayage technique. If you were looking to do something like this in foil, I would recommend a different sectioning pattern, and because you don't want to be taking 1-inch sections and throwing them into foils.
Okay, and we have one more question. Are the zigzags in the top bigger than the back?
Yes. So if you want to bring up the back sectioning again, and I know it's kind of hard to see on Instagram, guys, so bear with me. So on the back, you can see they're quite small zigzags. So I was really working through the section, just creating these tiny little zigzags as I went through and painting one side of the section. For the top, I'm taking larger zigzags, but then backcombing the section to really ensure I'm getting that diffusion.
Great. We have one more question. Was there backcombing in the back or just in at the top?
Just in at the top. I did not backcomb in the back.
Awesome. Great questions, everyone.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. And I noticed Azina put Brazilian Illuminage in the comments there. If you go to Wella Canada West, she did a live for us on Brazilian Illuminage that really explains that technique, and it's a foliage technique.
Yes, it is. It was a wonderful live, very informative.
Okay, perfect. Can you still see me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So I've got my large zigzag section. I'm going to backcomb here. And really, I'm not aggressively backcombing. I'm just pushing some of the hair up to really make sure I get some diffusion there.
We have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you typically work the top side to side or each side at a time?
You can do both. I personally, in a salon environment, would work side to side. For the sake of the live, I'm working one side at a time. I personally like working side to side because it makes sure I'm getting an even amount of lift on either side of the head.
I would have to agree with that, Nichelle. I do the same.
Yeah. But for the sake of the live, moving one section for one section, it makes it hard for you guys to see. So even on these sections, I'm pulling back away from her face, and I am saturating the center of my section first, then feathering towards the roots, really painting on top of those large zigzags, using those zigzags to give me those natural highs. And then I'm saturating the ends of my section. Now, do you normally use zigzags in your balayage applications, or is this something new for you as well?
I know I use them as well. I think it's great. It gives it more movement, a softer kind of flow through the hair by using the zigzag sections.
Yes, definitely. Perfect.
Can see more of the highs and the lows as you do that.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna just continue moving in a diagonal back motion throughout the head, taking about 1-inch sections and zigzagging out until I get to the front of the head. So obviously your sections get smaller and smaller. The nice thing about using a paddle is my hands aren't getting dirty when I'm doing this because I'm keeping my sections aren't getting dirty and I'm not having to wipe my hands in between, so.
Also, could they be changing the level of developer through this point if it's as they're going up and up towards, getting closer to the end of the balayage for evenness?
100%. So I typically remix my lightener every 15 minutes. Okay. The reason being is it kind of loses its power after about 10 to 15 minutes. So in a normal world, not in a live world, I would be mixing in between and bumping my developer slightly every section.
Yeah, and that really helps so that when you get to your last section, then your pieces will be even and light and even at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I decided not to backcomb as I get closer to the face here. The reason being is I really want to get lots of brightness in through that hairline detail. So I kind of backcomb those back sections, and then I'm going to stop backcombing as I get to the front of my section.
Excellent.
Perfect. So a question we often get asked is, can you do this technique with blonde or multi-blonde or with our blonde Duraplex powder? And I would say no. The beauty of free lights is it's a clay lightener, and what it does is it forms what we call an act-diffuse network on the hair. So it forms a crust on the outside but stays wet and working on the inside of the hair. So it really allows you to lay those sections down on top of each other and allow them they still, process and work.
Would you like me to change your slide for you, Nichelle?
Oh, yes, please. Back to the top sectioning.
We do have another question. Do you ever use saran wrap or bally wrap?
I have in the past. If you notice, I do have a little bit of the wraps on the bottom here just to keep it off of her skin. I know she's a mannequin, but let's treat her like a person. But with free lights, you don't have to use any separators, and that's kind of the beauty of it. I hope that answers your question.
I believe so. Is there any questions out there?
So again, I'm working, away from the face, using the peaks of those zigzags to really dictate the peaks of my paint. And one thing I'll note is you'll notice when I'm painting, my brush isn't, vertical into the hair. I'm actually painting with my brush on its side. So I'm not penetrating too deep into my section and causing any, bruising or bleeding into my section.
We have another question for you.
Yeah.
What would be the maximum volume of peroxide at the top as you go up towards the crown?
That's a really great question. So in free lights, you can use up to 40 volume developer. It is the only time I will recommend using a 40 volume developer with a lightener. That being said, something to always keep in mind when we're doing any kind of lightening is where we're working. So if I was working, kind of this back crown, 40 volume definitely you could use. But in this front, oftentimes on somebody with natural hair, not a mannequin, that hair tends to be quite a bit finer. So I wouldn't go too high in the front where that fine hair is.
Agreed.
I hope that answers that question.
We have another one. Do you ever use, no, maybe not. Yeah, I agree with the 40 volume. It's probably the only time I would also use 40 volume on any lightener.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't remember the last time I used 40 volume with free lights, but I know I have, but it's been a long time.
I agree. Maybe if you're using a darker base, you could definitely use it.
All right, so you can see I'm at the top of my section here. I hope you guys can see that all right.
Yeah, it looks good, Nichelle, from here.
So I'm still pulling back away from her face, like her face is over here. I'm still pulling back away from her face. I've got my zigzag in there. I've got product just on one side of my brush. I'm holding nice, good tension, and I'm starting in the center of my section. Okay. And really, this is a lot in the wrists. I'm almost kind of like flicking my brush as I go up to create that nice soft blend. What I really love about this technique is, you know, often in the salon or when we're doing balayage, we do the same old sectioning, the same old technique every single time. So what I really loved when we released this collection was it gave us a new way of looking at balayage and a new way of sectioning it as well.
Agreed, for sure.
Okay. So then at the front, I have this little piece left out. I am going to leave this piece out. The reason being is we can't have the light without the dark. So to really make this front money piece pop, having something that's slightly darker beside it is really going to make it pop out. So, you know, I think sometimes when we're lightening hair, we can get a little, you know, overzealous and lighten everything. But, you know, it's always good to remember you can't have the light without the dark. So I'll do the same thing to the other side. So again, I'm working in about 1-inch sections, going diagonal back, kind of following the flow of each section. All right. Oops. There we go. Perfect. And since I'm going to be back combing, I'm going to use my tail comb here, and I'm going to take nice large zigzags. I'm going to clip the top of my section out of the way. I'm going to back comb slightly the bottom of my section. Now, things to think about when you're back combing is how much depth or how much diffusion do you want to see? Obviously, this lower down in my section that I start, the more diffusion that I'll get, but the shallower the start, the less diffusion that I'll get. So think about how much depth you're leaving in there. I don't want too much because I'm still doing a freehand technique. So I'm going to start about midway and just push that hair out of the way. And then I, you know, point my teeth towards the head and kind of scoop it to lock that in. Okay. I really like locking with a comb or a clip when we're doing back combing because it really just keeps it out of the way so we don't accidentally start pulling out that back combing or painting on that back combed hair and causing spots.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a cleaner palette for you to work on without getting into your back combing or having the back combing kind of everywhere. It definitely keeps your section nice and clean by doing that.
Yeah, definitely. So again, I started in the middle of my section and I'm just slowly feathering on top of the peaks of those zigzags.
So Nichelle, what will be your next steps once it's done processing and you've rinsed out? What will be your next steps?
Awesome. So my next steps after she's done processing. So free lights can process for up to 50 minutes, so 50 minutes. With lightener, I always kind of check every 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, because some people are going to lift quick, some people are going to take a little bit longer, but it's always good to keep an eye. Next, I will take her back to the sink and I will rinse her thoroughly, shampoo her hair with my Color Motion Plus shampoo, and then I'll follow up with my Color Motion Plus post color treatment. So it's our 30-second post color treatment. Did you have that out there, ML, or did we forget that today?
I forgot that today, guys. Sorry.
So a lot of times everybody knows about the post color treatment that we have from the Service family. It comes in a large purple bottle. But for those of you guys that don't know, this year, or last year, sorry, we released a new line called Color Motion Plus, and it's really our color protection and care together. So in that line, we have a product called Color Motion Post Color Service, and it's a 30-second post color treatment. So that means it goes onto the hair and it works in 30 seconds. So after I rinse that out, I have it on for 30 seconds and I rinse it out. Then I'm going to follow up with my root melt and toner.
Awesome. And And today you're going to use Illumina for a toner.
Yes.
Excellent.
So I do have the formulas I sent you, but we'll wait until I reveal my mannequin here. So I do have a finished mannequin for you guys today. So you guys can see the finished look. So I'm just going to get through this section here, and then we'll show you guys the mannequin.
The nice thing about Illumina, Nichelle, which I think you can vouch for, is the shine you're going to get out of using Illumina.
Yes.
It's amazing for shine.
Yeah. And for looks like this, where we're really trying to create very natural, subtle looks, Illumina is a great choice because of that micro light technology that creates those natural highs and lows in the hair. It really mimics natural hair color. So a lot of times people ask, you know, can I tone using Illumina? What are kind of my options with Illumina? And you can. Illumina is a permanent hair color, but you can tone and gloss using Illumina in a couple of different ways. So the first way would be with our our pastel developer or 6-volume developer. Mix in a 1-part color to 2 parts developer ratio. And the other way is we could use it in a glossing service where it's 1 part Illumina color to 1 part 6-volume developer to 1 part post color treatment. And that's the one in the purple bottle. So really I know for everybody, when we released the 30-second post color from Color Motion, a lot of questions that were asked were, what's going to happen to the old one? The old one is here to stay. Each one has its own kind of benefit. When I need, you know, that 5 minutes to go mix a toner and maybe take a bathroom break and drink my coffee, because we all know 5 minutes is everything to a hairstylist.
5 minutes is a long time in our world.
Yeah, I'm going to use my regular post color treatment. But in a service where I'm doing another service afterwards, say I'm doing a root melt and a toner and something like that, and I want to, you know, move through the service quickly, then I'll use my 30-second. Or when I'm using a glossing service, I still need to be using my regular post as well.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Nichelle, when you're done that, could you please show us your finished mannequin?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing the end result of this beautiful balayage.
I'm actually so excited to show you guys. I was really proud of myself.
I'm sure it looks amazing. You guys, and Nichelle's a great stylist, so I'm sure she's going to show you guys a beautiful mannequin.
Awesome. All right. So I would continue through that section, just working back, but you can see how the zigzags, like painting those tops of those zigzags, really gives you those natural highs. Yeah. So I love painting on top of the zigzags. It's a really cool way of doing it. All right. So the big reveal.
Ooh, beautiful. Love the highs and lows. Very beautiful.
So do you want to bring up the formula?
Yes, I can.
I'll put her on here.
There you go, guys. This is the formula.
So I started her off, I colored down her base she was a level 8 naturally, and I colored down her base with 7-stroke 3-1 from Illumina with the 6-volume developer mixed in a 1-to-2 ratio to really bring that base down. And then after I rinsed everything out and from the balayage, I then did a root shadow and a toner, and I did it all in one step. And that's really just to kind of save time. So I did her root shadow with 8-stroke 9-3. Let's see if I can tilt her down so you guys can see her better.
We also have a quick question when you're done with the formula.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to tilt her down. There we go. Mannequin life. Okay. So there's her root shadow there. It's very subtle because I did it at a level 8, whereas her base was at a level 7. And it just kind of creates that very subtle graduation of color. So working in the back, I pulled it down a little bit further, whereas in the front, I really tried to keep the money piece bright.
Very nice.
So that was the 8-stroke 9-3. So that's a level 8 Cendré Gold. I love these hybrid colors where we have like a mix of warm and cool. It's my favorite. With our 6-volume developer in a 1:2 ratio. So I painted the roots first, and then I went through the ends with 9-stroke 5-9, which is a level 9 red violet Cendré.
So for who didn't remember, these are the tones that Nichelle used here. This was the 8-stroke 9-3 and the 9-stroke 5-9.
Yeah, and it really creates like this very like blushy blonde. It's really quite pretty. I'm really happy with how it turned out and how all the colors kind of married together. There we go.
So
Perfect.
2 quick questions. What did you use to wave her hair?
So I used the GHD curve in the 1-inch, and I worked in vertical sectioning, and I twisted and dropped the section as I moved down the hair, so kind of pulling it. What that does is it elongates the curl and gives you that really nice kind of beachy wave.
Awesome. And then one more question. Do you always have to use root shadow when using free lights?
Not at all. Free lights, you know, it creates such a beautiful blend of color. You don't always have to go in with a root shadow. And if I'm being 100% honest, I did not need to go into root shadow for this application. I just decided to because I really wanted to use the 8-stroke 9-3. So that's just me being, you know, I wanted to use all the colors. But you don't have to. If you want to keep that brightness at the very root, then you definitely don't need to do a root shadow.
Awesome. Beautiful. Looks awesome.
Thank you. Yes, I can teach you the wave. Thank you, Nick, for your comment. I'm really happy with the results. So thank you everybody for, you know, you're taking your time today out of your day to watch my live. Thank you so much, ML, for co-hosting with me. You're an amazing co-host.
Thank you for having me today, everyone. Thank you, Modern, for having me on too today.
Yes, thank you so much, Modern. I know we take over your live every couple of weeks and all of us really enjoy being on here. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody got something out of today. If you ever have any questions, ML, do you want to put up our Insta handles?
Yes.
So I am the Hair Niche, and then Mary Lynn is Hair by Mary Lynn. And then we also have at Wella Canada West. Feel free to tag us, ask questions. I would love to hear from all of you guys if you guys have any questions. And make sure you're also following Modern if you're not already.
Agreed.
Yes. Thank you, guys.